Maybe Bunny is the best bet, as both their TVT seem to be also around a similar level and similar style. It could go a lot of ways here in this beginning best of 5 as we head into the round of 8. Starting off on Romanticide on top of this sky for the bottom right, Kaizi Gaming. It is time.
For the fans that are obviously here, you know, for the fans. And spawning over in the top left as our Red Terran, representing Team NV, it is Bunny. Romanticide start things off. This is like obviously one of the more defensive maps now. Usually can go long. We've seen some of the best TVTs, I want to say, of the year on this with Marine Lord versus Clem. That was an absolute cracker. But both these guys, I don't often see them be in the ultra late game. No doubt they can do it, but I think what Kevin said on the desk was pretty damn accurate. These guys have no breaks. They just go, go, go.
I mean, it's a matchup where that is usually a pretty good thing. I mean, especially now that like a factory expands are a lot more popular. It really is about like how does the first 2 minutes go as far as the trades, as far as who's eking out the win. And we do occasionally still have some of the not like tank Raven kind of boring openers, but Romanticide does kind of encourage the later game, so this might be the map that we get to see, even potentially up to Ravens. Time is using it to go for a 1-Rax expand, which I think we all are totally willing to accept. It can be done on Romanticide, but then, Bunny's doing perhaps more of the meta thing as factory expand.
Yeah, it's definitely worth noting how different these openings already are. Bunny comes over here and he's like, wait a minute, you went for a no-scout expansion? What a greedy, greedy boy, whereas he's gone for the double gas on his side of the map and scouted as well. But we do see that Time did walk around, just check for proxies and stuff. What would you do if you actually did scout a proxy? Well, you wouldn't put that CC on the low ground, instantly cancel it, set up a couple of bunkers, and you'd probably be all right. That being said, Romanticide does have a lot of jump-up ledges for those Reapers if that was the case, but so far you can definitely say that this build order choice from Time, it's paid off a little bit.
I do feel like when you are going to 1-Rax expand in this matchup, it is a bit of like a in for a penny, in for a pound kind of thing. Like, might as well be like pretty greedy if you're going to be this greedy. And just basically, risk them not 2-Raxing you, or that you can find it with just a kind of a small SCV sky, I guess we'll call it, the one that just checks around the areas. The follow-ups can be very important here, but Bunny's not going to be going for any super eager, overly aggressive Reaper count. I mean, anyways. He actually could add on with the reactor, but I think we see a bit faster reactor if they do that. So right up to a starport, a couple of Hellions and a tech lab. Yeah, bit of a regular opener. And then can he get a scout? Can he get into the main base? His one Reaper's already weak. That seems like a not great idea.
Actually, I was actually surprised that he jumped in there.
Yeah.
Like, you can kind of bait the shots when you go up to the low ground there and then run away, but he went for it. So definitely a bit of an error by Bunny. Granted, he hasn't gone for like the 3rd or 4th Reaper or anything like that. It was just the 2 for scouting information along with the 1 Hellion, just to be safe and what have you. But he did go for an exceedingly fast Raven here. Made the tech lab on the factory, then switching it. So that's going to be his kind of advantage in this game. So he's behind a little bit economically, and oh my goodness, that is the echo if I've ever seen.
I mean, 3CC coming down here for Time, and wait, okay, I was actually confused on the starport timing. I thought he was doing something else now, but 3CC still. I mean, it's Romanticide. You feel like this one is going to be how you get away with it. Sometimes what we also see is like maybe Bunny, for instance, will do a bit of a push and 3CC on the low ground while he pushes, and considering how it goes, it can actually even up. But yeah, much, much faster Raven, so much more energy, quite possibly just more Ravens as well, as Time not really eager to get to it yet.
Yeah, it's definitely like the normal 3rd CC timing. It can vary a little bit, but what you normally do is have your starport already done kind of thing. You're rolling off the 3 gases. His 3rd gas was pretty late with this. Gets up the starport after as well. Now he's kind of, Time's build is definitely greedy, but I do like it. And you see that Bunny is doing that low ground expansion that you talked about to kind of compensate, but he still doesn't know exactly what's going on yet. But we did talk about it. Romanticide is one of the harder maps to crack your opponent's 3-base setup.
Exactly. So, I mean, when all is said and done, it is lining up to be at least one of the longer macro games of TVT, but a lot of TVTs do actually kind of get determined, if not with like a lot of Reapers early on. If it was 5 Reaper 3 Hellion, then like that could determine something. If not that, then the first tank push. You know, what can that really do on a map like Romanticide? It's not supposed to do game-ending damage, but you know, the amount of times that I've been like, it's not supposed to do very much, guys. Let's just keep talking, and then suddenly it does a lot. Well, I can't actually count it. It happens way too often.
This could really throw off time, by the way. That scan just then, seeing those like second and third barracks go down, he could be assuming that his opponent actually wants to play like a 2-base thing, unless he's already thinking about that third being on location or over on the far left. But that can really throw you off if you're Bunny. I mean, you know, the nerves, the pressure can get to you. You don't know. I don't know how much these guys have played against one another, but I do like Time's position in this. As long as he does hold this, which those Marines getting awfully close.
Well, that already reduces the chances of it. Yeah, I do think it actually depends a lot on the mindset. I know they've played each other a decent amount recently, and it has been Bunny favored most recently. But, you know, with the beginning Reaper being a bit of a mistake, those Marines were definitely a mistake. It is kind of one of those things where, like, Bunny might not be, like, you know, Snaps is going as fast as possible. But I think now he understands the situation. He is trying to just outmaneuver Time, but it's supposed to be a difficult on this map. He scans, sees the movement, and yeah, he just can't really break that, even if there wasn't a ramp and a choke.
And look how fast Time's resources, or rather, like, his infrastructure. He's already got the 1-1 going. He's got the 3 barracks up and running. Like, in every way, shape, and form, Bunny, he really feels he has to do something. And his one advantage is that he does have those earlier Ravens, meaning they have more energy right now. But, yeah, this is such a difficult spot to be in as Bunny, because how does he get the damage done? I think Time's actually playing a marvelous way this game.
I mean, he's gotten away with everything. Bunny was kind of doing like a middle-of-the-road, kind of safe, kind of greedy, you know, the third CC on location, but not really for this map, whereas Time was just kind of like, let's go right towards that third CC. And it's not so easy to punish that on a very defensive map. A couple SCVs getting harassed with the auto turret is about the best use of the Ravens he'll have. Sometimes you see the moment, you dive on top of your opponent's army, but that's just not there in this game.
I am so scared for Bunny. Like, his upgrades, I'm glad they've started. I was like, oh my god, has he even made engineering base yet? But luckily, they will be on the board. But given that he hasn't been able to get much done, he's just like, you know what? I'm going to get back home and be safe, because my opponent, maybe he got a couple of cheeky medevacs out there, and one of the worst places you can be is outside your opponent's base and, you know, unable to do anything back home. But we do see they're both powering up infrastructure-wise. Time's got a slight SCV lead, Bunny with a slight Viking lead. It's just a very, very standard TVT at the moment.
It's a pretty tight game. I mean, the barracks 4 and 5 came down at the exact same time, but then Time was producing the 5 Marines a bit faster. And those upgrades, well, as long as Time is on top of them, and he definitely seems like he is with the army finishing up almost perfectly, he'll just have that upgrade lead indefinitely. Like, you can't chrono boost this stuff. So Bunny is going to have to, you know, he's going to click on the Marine, realize, yeah, I'm also behind there, and then really have to be careful about how he plays any of the Marine tank fights. Although, honestly, to Muslim, I wouldn't be surprised if this is the type of game that just kind of, you know, skyrockets up to multiple starports.
It absolutely could be. And you can tell that Bunny, he's not cutting any corners whatsoever. Like, look at his 4th CC. It's not on location, it's kind of next to his natural kind of thing. Whereas Time, he's just like, bam, on location, that 4th base, and he's set up nicely. He's put down a few turrets as well defensively, just in case, you know, he kind of gets caught out a little bit. But they're both handling this TVT very differently. Oh my god, that was a turret down there. I liked it.
Yeah, a lot of times Terrans will just kind of, you know, load up medevacs and chill, wait for some type of distraction to occur, and then zoom in, and that's what the missile turret would have been good against. So Bunny just with like the tiniest little bit of map control. That game was a bit interesting. You think he was looking for starports?
I'm not sure, you know. I'm really not sure. I think it's just to keep tabs on what's actually happening in the main base, whether there was some switch going on. Very unlikely, but I think you're right. Might have been starports, just to check what stage of the game he's actually in.
Yeah, and without seeing, I mean, not that I guarantee that was not really an ideal scan, perhaps, but with Time also clearly moving out, I think Bunny is under no wrong impression. He is about to be attacked, and as this goes on for an extended period of time, let's say 45 seconds, then he will be attacked with worse upgrades. Now, it's a lot about tanks right now. There haven't been a lot of trades. We're talking about 8 tanks for each Terran. That's always hard to break. But we're also still talking about Ravens being alive, and they could still contribute to a fight late in this game. And actually, Bunny is the one that's going to go for it. The interference matrix comes down. He's going through one of his own chokes. Time's concave is beautiful, and the interference matrix from him on the right side might just cut it. I can't believe Bunny dived into that.
Neither can I. I think Bunny might be able to just hold on a little bit here, but he's lost absolutely every tank. That was suicidal.
What?
And, you know, we talked about it. These guys have no breaks, but it was time being patient outside his base. And Bunny, man, that was a real bad fight to take. I don't know what he was thinking.
I guess he thought his Ravens were in better position, so if he could get the jump, like, it would have been more effective. But funnily enough, Time's Ravens coming in a bit later was maybe even more impactful. Yeah, I think that's one of those things where you got to ask Bunny, what was playing out in your mind there when you saw what you were about to do? And, you know, maybe he's like, yeah, I thought the interference pitch would be good enough, but now he's contained on 3 bases instead of 4. Because that was the alternative, is him being, you know, kept suppressed, but still definitely alive. Now, being sent back to 3 bases, this is going to be so tough. And Time, actually, no breaks indeed, just runs up. And it doesn't matter that Bunny was going to set up a surround because it looks like he's already dead.
I think so. I mean, like, he might be able to hold on for a little bit of time here, but Time did actually go just as his 2-2 hit, realizing that he did have the upgrade lead there. So I didn't even dislike his approach, but it's got to be said, Time looked a lot more complete in this game, and his decision-making was actually quite a bit better than Bunny's, and he's going into this 3rd base now, but there's not much left for Bunny here. The SV is being pulled. That is not a good sign against 2-2 Marines, and yeah, Time just looked better this game so far. GG is called.
That was definitely not how I saw that game ending. It almost felt, honestly, like one of those games that Bunny was kind of frustrated that it was playing out like this, you know? He was really hoping that his opponent would be doing either a similar build, so it really is just mono-a-mono, we factory expand, we 3rd CC safely, and it wasn't, or that he wanted to be a more of an action-packed game, and he wasn't comfortable in that regard either, so he was just like, I think there's a moment, it's a little bit, perhaps, of impatience.
Super impatient. There was, like, I know it's uncomfortable when your opponent's killing those rocks and they have another angle to attack you from, but he was still able to get down the 4th.
Yeah.
Like, there was no, like, for Time, he was like, okay, what will I do after this? And it's like, I can't really do much. And then it's like, oh, you're actually going to attack me? That is the best thing that could have ever happened. And even though he caught him, you know, not ready for it, it's just... like Time, he just runs in and he's like, oh, well, I've still got several tanks firing, whereas yours are all moving into position. And that was absolutely a catastrophe for Bunny. Like, much better handled by Time. And wow, I love all the gambles that Time did in that series as well. That 3rd CC timing, it's not something you see very often, but that is the map to do it on.
Yeah.
I really think Time is playing phenomenally well this tournament so far.
Yeah, I mean, I am very interested in this next game. That it wasn't exactly a build order win because mostly it was just Bunny diving forward and kind of losing, you know, Time was saying thank you.
But he wasn't super far behind despite playing safe.
No, but I do feel like in a way, like I was saying, like maybe it contributed to Bunny kind of like having some not proper thinking basically, right? Impatience, whatever. And if we do have a game that is maybe quote-unquote more typical, like factory expand and factory expand, 3rd CC being the main point of contest, then maybe that's where Bunny does thrive. But I don't know. It was such a, like, not what expected the end to be, right? Like, that does make me now doubt Bunny's ability in TVT.
Actually, yeah, and, like, if I think about his one loss to Special in the group stage as well, where it was like, you know, his CC survives on Lightshade.
Oh, that's right.
And then he flies it back. It's like, what are you doing? And then in the interview afterwards, he's like, yeah, this wouldn't happen in like one game. Like, it wouldn't happen even if I played 100 games of this scenario. But anyhow, getting into 2K atmosphere now to, I guess, second things off in a way. Spawning over in the top right, as our Red Terran, it is Bunny.
And to the bottom left, now up a game, he is Time.
That's all the Twitch fans right now making the noises.
Yeah, absolutely.
Aha, so this game Time is opting for a gas before a barracks. This used to be the super duper standard if you went for like your double gas plays, but the barracks gas play really became the go-to. It was after the King of Battles tournament. I think that's where it kind of like really ramped up as being the better, at least safer opening against a lot of things. But yeah, it is nice to see that they're both kind of mixing it up a little bit, or at least Time is.
Yeah, so what I did kind of notice, and I didn't analyze it, but I'm pretty sure I noticed it correctly, is that I feel like Special, who was doing a lot of 1-Rax expands in his TVT, I feel like he did go for a gas first with his 1-Rax expands. So this might actually be time also doing another 1-Rax expand. And on that thought process as well, oh no, it is second gas, so not that. But I was about to say, if it was, I wonder if time talked to Special. Because this would have been like the same map that Special had done it on. That's why I picked up on it. But no, it is going to be a factory expand, which means that it's more towards your point, which is this is the old-fashioned version.
Yeah, the old-fashioned version. You get out your factory a little bit faster, your Reaper is a little bit slower. Honestly, they kind of work out similarly, but the way that Bunny's playing, the double gas, it all lines up so nicely for getting down that expansion still pretty quick if you do scout your opponent going for an expansion. But we do see time here. He's kind of opting for no scout play. Like the game before, it was like scouting around just for proxies, but not to his base, getting that third CC up real damn early. I do like the way that time is just changing the build-up like crazily. When you're in that kind of position against that kind of player, it does make you a little bit wary of what they're capable of.
Yeah, I would, if I was guessing what Bunny could have done after that game, and the next map being 2,000 atmospheres, I would have not at all been surprised had he actually done a proxy Rax. So time, he doesn't scout for it, but he does have the better build against it. Now this is the setup that I feel like we're going to see true Bunny here, just as someone who did think that Bunny was going to win, not just based off my own feelings, but their past history. I do feel like, the openers being very similar and both of them kind of, showing maybe a bit more respect to each other. I do feel like this is where we're going to see Bunny not be as impatient, and I think he also did, of course, just learn his lesson. He probably looked at that same game and was like, yeah, probably a bad idea. Don't do that again.
Super cute, by the way. They're both going for a tech lab immediately on the factory, like no Hellion or whatsoever, so probably going for very fast Cyclones apiece. I like the amount of openings and variants. Okay.
Oh.
This is unusual, to say the least.
Yes, it is. So 2 racks coming down for time. And, okay, that was just Spot Epo. So, 2-1-1, almost in the TVP version of it, not the TVZ version. It's going to be scouted immediately, which I'm not sure time was really hoping for that to happen. He will clean up the Reapers, but only after they get the scout and 3 SCVs. Pretty good dive there from Bunny.
Yeah, I think that combined with the scout was actually totally good. And now he's only got 1 Cyclone back at home, and they're both adding on the second Cyclone. Quite a bit of map control, but now it's going to be Time's chance to get something done across the map. And yeah, this could be a little bit scary for Bunny, but yeah, that 2 racks follow-up, it's so unusual, honestly, because normally it's a starport, get the third CC going as fast as you can. I'm very curious about what his plan is.
I mean, if he is going to go up into just starport next after the stim start, it's like, really? A 2-1-1? Then to be the more aggressive one, to kind of be on the map more often, really threatening your opponent, it's all a good idea. I feel like Bjorn still enjoys these build orders in this matchup because he does like controlling a matchup and be super aggressive. But I have to say that I'm actually not been very impressed with Bjorn's TVT lately. And some of it is because I'm usually not impressed by this type of build. I feel like Bunny staying the course, and especially after he scouted it too and just kind of defending, I think is going to play out better, but all it takes is being out of position 1 time against 2 drops, and you're just taking a bad hit there.
I think this is, so like now that I'm thinking about it, this is definitely one of the maps that I could see it working out though.
Okay.
I say that because trying to take the third is actually a bit difficult. Like the ability to just drop into the main and like your movement is a lot worse trying to take that third if you're Bunny, and having your opponent get fast medevacs out on the map and him being able to kind of whip around and stuff, it can definitely put a bit of a dampener on how fast you take your third, and then you get your own third on location and stuff. So I see the premise of it. I just want to see how it pans out. And I also want to see Bunny's response.
Right, yeah. I actually really liked that Bunny got the second Cyclone. I know Time did as well, but I actually didn't like that as much. But the second Cyclone to really bop down, because this is 2 Cyclones is actually when like the difference of 2 medevacs flying in and 1 dying versus flying in going, oh, whoops, it's a Cyclone, and being able to still back away. So I really like the second Cyclone, and otherwise, I do think, just playing defensive on 2 bases a little bit longer, because this is also kind of a classic setup in a different way of, back when like Innovation was a really good TVT, or he used to always do 3 CC against like a 2 base kind of all in almost. And it was a similar concept, the 3 CC guy had to defend, and if he defended, he came out ahead economically, but he just didn't have any map control.
Yeah, and this is going to be a very different style of TVT, and we are talking about this first drop coming for the main base here, and I don't know how much Bunny has back at home. He knows about it now, but tank is not sieged, and that is Stim vulnerable, but Time's actually, I think he's giving Bunny a bit too much respect here.
I think so as well. I actually saw that being GG, man. I had it all played out in my mind. That tank would have been jumped upon. The rest of the units coming in from Bunny wouldn't have been enough, and they still might not be enough. No, it is going to be okay. The double Stim there as well, really hurting the Marines of Time, but Bunny is also defending the natural, which makes this a bit better. He's going to clean up all the medevacs too. I mean, with all the medevacs going down, it does now make it look like, it was okay. I actually was really worried for Bunny, right? But it's actually a game that Bunny now even gets a counterattack with.
I think so. And you know what? Like, Time's army is going to be so damn bad against a tank push. Like, granted, he has Stim, but when you don't have air control or anything like that, you just have a large amount of Marines. I'm curious about what his tank count's going to be.
I'm actually kind of wondering if that was not the right way to play with the 2 racks, or the 2 medevacs specifically. Like, instead just unloading and loading back up if you weren't absolutely certain you could do a ton of damage. But of course, having the avenue to the SCV so wide open, I also can't blame Time. Let's see if it bites him in the butt. He's got his tanks positioned in a neutral area. He can't really go after the 3rd CC anytime soon. He's even building a bunker. He knows that his army is not very good right now. Interference mages will take out a splash damage, and then he'll have a bunch of tanks now controlling his own natural against him, and here we see it happening. Time does save 1 tank. Kudos on that, but there's the contain.
Yeah, and this is really hard to get out of. Like, he doesn't have his own Ravens to make the tanks of his opponent useless. Granted, he's getting good upgrades here, but look at that. I mean, Time is playing with fire in this game, and Bunny knows about it.
Okay. I mean, he knew that he knew. So the unload is decent. But again, these Marines are already a bit injured. Obviously, that ploy has been figured out. Now, Bunny, he's got to take that seriously. Like, he can't actually really depend on his production quite yet to stop everything, because it's only still a 1-1-1. But it looks like he's going to shift over to the right side, stop any potential surround from coming in by tackling one of Time's armies, and then maybe going back to the contain. But Time, it looks like he's actually still going to go across the map, or is at least holding on to that idea.
I actually love the way that Bunny's handling this. Like, taking out one of those medevacs really kind of makes the army significantly weaker. He's utilizing his air control super well. That starport, if he takes out the reactor as well, Time's going to be in far more trouble. And so far, what's the resources lost about? It must be really bad for Time. And oh my god, 3 times the resources lost. This is great for Bunny.
Yeah, and I think right now Bunny's got to have a few tanks back in him. I know he actually had left one from the get-go. Now he's got 3, I believe. There's another one up on the high ground. That was the initial one.
Great movement.
I love this move. I actually really do. I'm seriously, like, this is, I feel like, how Beyond has been playing his TVTs, the way Time is playing. And this has always been the weakness. Unless the guy with the drops can keep hammering the defender, can keep him on his side of the map, the army is just worse. And then it becomes increasingly obvious this guy's going to try to base trade me, so that the guy with more tanks just, like, turtles up and says, yeah, all right, let's do this.
Did he lose the starport entirely, by the way? He's remaking the starport, so... there is one window for Bunny, or rather for Time. That 1-1 is just about to finish, and that adds a massive punch to this entire army of his. But how do you break into that? You've only got 3 medevacs as well, and one of them's pretty mortally wounded here.
Yeah, it's going to get shot down pretty quickly. 4 tanks defending back at home for Bunny. I mean, we do have a bit of a stalemate situation where no one can really truly kill the other person, but obviously Bunny is just in a better position. He already took out so much the production. He forced the 3rd CC up a lot faster. He's up 30 supply. The upgrades could be an issue if it wasn't so much about the tanks right now. Good scan there from Bunny, realizing that Time is probably going to come back home for the good old sandwich, and here it comes. Auto turrets actually come down to the backside to buy some time for the tanks, but, Bunny's tanks are shooting all over the place, so he is going to get cleaned up now, but Time is effectively, seems very all in. Killed 18 SCVs. He does still have his 3rd CC, so I could see this game playing out for a decent while longer, but Bunny holds on to that really convincing supply lead.
He certainly does. What's the tank count at for Bunny right now? So we do have still 5 tanks. That just goes to show how good and how much he left back at home, because I thought that was a decent cleanup by Time, all things said and done. But the fact that he's against 9 Vikings, 6 tanks, and a Liberator, and he's kept the 2 Ravens alive. This game, Bunny made big mistakes in that first game, but this game, I think he's handled everything with pure patience.
Yeah, I think Time actually might have been, the one we could accuse of being a little overeager. Good concave coming out, but the auto turrets buy a little extra time. Oh, the Liberator actually wasn't siege, so, she didn't get really help, but While the third CC might have to be lifted, it certainly won't go down.
Oh.
And Bunny is still in a decent position, but this is exactly what Time would have to do to try and bring it back. Now it's Bunny who's going to try and outmaneuver the blue Terran, and it looks like Time has not seen it.
No, and that is really bad because he is just rallying his whole army across the map, and that CC did work like a little scout here, so it does get to see the bunch of Marines, but oh goodness, GG is called. You might be wondering what happened there, but Time, he was totally all in, and yeah, that both these guys, they don't know how to say no. Their only word that they have is go, for real, but like both games that they've both shown a little bit of patience, a little bit of caution, is the game that they both won. I wouldn't be surprised if things settled down a little bit from here.
Maybe. It's just, yeah, two players that really do just go, when there's a green light, they're already speeding through it, man. Time, I don't think there's really much you could do after you lose those two medevacs, right? Like, I'm thinking about how he could have possibly held the counter better, and I don't think there is any way, right? Which means that the two medevacs would have had to have been kind of priority staying alive, not diving out of SCVs.
I respect the hustle of going for these different build orders, you know, but as soon as he got over here and he picked off all these units, it was just maybe scooching over to the right, but your opponent has two Cyclones, then you know, you talked about Beyond doing these kind of builds.
Yeah.
I hate those kind of builds. I think skipping Ravens is just
a
no-go in every sense of the word. But again, I respect the fact that he mixed it up a little bit. It's just, when you're at this level, those Ravens really do control fights so hard. If you're wondering why, you can pop down so many turrets technically if you want to. The anti-armor missile's good in the later stages of the game, but being able to disable 4 tanks of your opponent, that is the difference between like being able to break out of something and not. Like, it can really win you the game right there and then. So yeah, nice try by Time, but better play by Bunny in that second game.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is kind of one of those situations where it is just a better build, guys, but it also was better play by Bunny as Time definitely could have played that differently. He definitely could have held on to the two medevacs and kind of just like made Bunny fearful and afraid, like when's it coming, played around the threats and then mobility of his army, but he didn't. He just kind of threw it away so quickly as well that Bunny was like, of course I'm going to counterattack.
What I actually thought he was going to do was play the kind of two-base contain game, like slowing down the third from dropping, because that actually does make sense. But the fact that he just kind of went for it like Wano, it's kind of like what Roddy said in the Scarlet series. It was like, oh, now he needs to slow down. He just goes. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's definitely a bit of a gamble.
Yeah, I actually think that, well, I'll do the intros first. Top left of Light Shade for what is now a tied best of 5 is Bunny.
And spawning her in the bottom right as the blue Terran, it is Time.
You know, very briefly when Time dropped, I was like, is Bunny trying to bait him? Is that like even a situation he could be doing right now? Because I was really shocked his Cyclones and Vikings weren't in the most obvious drop area possible, right? So either, I seriously can't believe it was a bait because he was so vulnerable with that only one tank having siege. It was so vulnerable. But, you know, he probably just was like, oh, Time's going to play a little bit, you know, not so direct. Like, no way he drops in the most obvious possible place. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I feel like Time is like any of us. You get open into a main base of another Terran, and the SCVs are just right there. Like, who doesn't go after that? But maybe he's thinking in his mind, like, oh, yeah, just from the get-go, I shouldn't have done that. I mean, we'd have to see him play the same build again, and then I think we'd see his actual strategy in play, not his over-eagerness to end the game, but I just doubt we'll see the same build.
It's funny, though, when you arrive in a naked base from a really good play, you're like, wait.
Yeah. Wait a second.
Where's the trap? Like, you know, like Viking swoop in from the right, you're like, oh, and get a bit of hesitance and stuff. So maybe that's the moment for Time where he's like, you know, it kind of bit me in the ass here, playing a bit cautious. Like, I should have just went for it. And yeah, who knows how this game is going to go. But Time again, I don't think he scouted this game.
Doesn't look like it.
So this whole game, he's playing his own TVT, man. Like, I don't know what kind of studying he's done, but he is just like, you know what? I'm going to pick a build and I'm going to go with it. And that does make me a little bit worried. But Bunny, I do think that he's maybe feeling like he's the better player. And the fact that he's going around scouting for like what could be a second proxy racks on the map and stuff, I think Bunny's just going into this thinking he is better, and he's willing to give away a few minerals just to make sure that he's not going to get bamboozled.
I think that's a very good point. I don't think it is like such a one-sided affair because only recently has Bunny started winning over time. But it definitely could be that he's like, I actually think I'm kind of comfortable against this guy. Let's not just do anything stupid, you know, aside from dive bomb like 8 tanks through a choke. But, you know, besides that,
you know, small mistake.
I think you're right, though. Just like at least the builds are saying that he's really respecting the possibilities of early aggression from Time, whereas Time is playing a little more with fire, especially with the 1-Rex expand in the first game. But now we actually have 3 Reaper, 2 Hellion from Time, and that could be a bit dicey for Bunny.
Absolutely could be. Like, you want to be aggressive with this usually. Sometimes it can go up to even a 3rd Hellion and 4th Reaper, but no, he won't be going for that, so he's going to be moving across the map with the 3 Reaper situation. And Bunny, he went for the 2 Reaper, 1 Hellion, but didn't go for the Widowmine, which is usually what you do when you go for this, so he skipped a bit of a step. So this is definitely an opportunity for Time where he could maybe get something done, but he's pausing a little bit because he could definitely delay that CC if he wanted to.
Yeah, these little, like, 2-second pauses are maybe a reason the command center actually finishes. Oh, there we go. Had he gone in just a second sooner, that is still at, like, you know, 99%, and it's a lot more of a bother because you can't make the orbital, you can't produce SCVs afterwards, but, of course, the Cyclone will eventually come out and save the day unless this went really, really bad, but a bit of a missed opportunity to delay that orbital.
Absolutely. Like, you have your moment here, and at worst case scenario, you go up a ramp and you see that your opponent has the same, you get back. When he saw that there was no Widowmine there, I really felt it was one of those situations where it's like, he knew a Cyclone was coming, then he went up the ramp. Just definitely a few nuances here where I think Time is, I don't want to say shooting himself in the foot, but not utilizing the build that he has.
And speaking of builds, he adds on a second barracks here.
Wow, okay. So most likely going to go for, I imagine, 1 Raven and then switching it out and playing very aggressive and yet again, but that is definitely a wild way to play TVT. And maybe that's why players like Big Gabe have found him so difficult to play against, because he just brings a new tempo and like weird timings that kind of off-put you a little bit.
That's absolutely true. Time actually is quite good against Hero Marine, and I think that could be the reason. It will be fun because it's kind of like similar idea to the last build, but obviously not as straightforward because we stopped off at a Raven. But I mean, the Raven could even be used as a secondary form of harassment. It's very dodgy though, because obviously Viking's going to come out of Bunny and be able to push away Raven, but Raven distracts you. Even a hot second, 2 medevacs going to the main, something like that. Or honestly, even just 1 interference matrix from Time could have also changed that last game drastically, right? If he had interference matrix, the 1 defending tank, it would have been a no-brainer to jump on top of the army. But it is still nonetheless an interesting build. Not as tech-heavy as what Bunny does, and depending on how Bunny was going to get his 3rd CC timing, perhaps not even as economic.
I just want to talk more about Gabe, you know, because I'm just listening to him on his stream, and he's like, oh yeah, when you go medevacs, it's usually the worst thing to do. And it's like, you know, you go Vikings when you want to be defensive, and I do feel that the defender's route, if you nail it, it's going to be the better option in like 9 times out of 10. But maybe Time's thinking, you know what? I did make a few errors there, and even though it is a different build, it's got the same premise of thought. He wants to be in his opponent's face.
Exactly. I mean, it's really the test of time, guys. The last like couple of years, it's been so much about the 3rd CC that it's, you know, it's almost not worth mentioning. It's the Raven tank and the 3rd CC, but this is about to get interesting.
This is even more than interesting. I'm actually starting to really hate this for Bunny.
Yeah.
The fact that he's moved out and gone indirectly across the map as opposed to just going straight through the middle, he's not going to have any clue about this.
Oh, God. Yeah, and 3 tanks just sieged up for Time. Yeah, this is exactly what Time would want to have happen. He had not been scouted. Bunny had no idea about the possibility of early medevacs, much less of to be in his main base already. And now Bunny, probably figuring that he's doomed. He's going to try and attack, but even with the handful of interference matrices that he has, his command center's dead. His production's dead. He'd actually have to win the game with this army right now.
Which, he's going for it. He certainly is. He's dropped down quite a few interference matrices, but the turrets, that 1 Raven defense from Time was damn good. That absolutely kept him in the game, and I think Time just won the game with an absolute gamble drop.
He did. He absolutely did. I mean, if Bunny had any indication that this was the build, looks like I actually saved the CC, guys. So that's pretty nice. But if he had any indication that it was going to be a faster drop build or even just the second barracks that fast would have been the perfect scout, he would not have pushed like he did. I don't think he pushes at all. He plays a similar game to last. But this time around, the Reapers not getting into Time's base probably made the biggest difference.
You know, this is one of those games where I'm like, Bunny, why did you move out? Like, I know you can move out, but the fact that I don't think he really got any scouting done of the main base to know what he was up against, and he knows he's against Time that's been doing this weird medevac drop, like, multiple games now. It just... yeah, it's one of those things where I can be a little bit critical of Bunny for not, like, playing his opponent, more playing the race, which you can't do when you're against somebody as crazy as Time.
Yeah, I really think Bunny was just kind of like, no way he's going to do another 2-1-1, autopilot mode, Viking, tank, Raven, right? But that wasn't the case. It was not what was happening, and in that case, too, Time was able to leave all of his tanks at home to defend a push perfectly. This push also looks very defendable for Time. I mean, the Vikings land, but the 4 tanks were still good to go. Now down to 2. Time still has some Marines. He still has a Cyclone, so as his Liberators show up, they're not going to be able to win the game either. Bunny, yeah, going to tap out. GG. Time 2-1. I mean, almost... You know when like a 2-Rex fails and we're like, yeah, the 2-Rex not going to be used again. And then they do it and you're like, why'd you 2-Rex again? That's the only reason I lost against it. I almost feel like it was one of that scenario where Bunny is like, really? The double drop again? Okay.
Yeah, definitely a brutal game for Bunny because you see it as soon as he moves out and it's like you're taking the long way around as well. You're not like going straight to your opponent's base. But definitely nice play from Time. He's gambling, Zombie Grub. He's absolutely gambling.
Yeah, not playing the typical TVT that Bunny probably wants to play. Maybe he'll now say that this isn't Terran, it's Time. It's Bunny versus Time, like Bunny versus Special.
That's true, that's true.
Maybe. We'd have to actually ask him in an interview if he wins, but that's looking less and less likely as Time now leads 2-1 in the first best of 5 of the day. We're going to go to a break, guys, and when we come back, we'll see how this TVT ends. Welcome back, guys. We have Time now leading the TVT 2-1 against Bunny. And with some kind of weird builds. Time is refusing to play TVT as people expect.
He's absolutely mixing it up. And yeah, the Euro Terran in me, the ladder Terran in me, I'm like, this gambly son of a... Like, this double drop absolutely should not work. And for a moment there, I thought I sounded American or something. But yeah, it absolutely shouldn't work. Like, I feel that if Bunny was sat back in position, just everything would have been honky-dory for him. But yeah, caught out, like at the bottom of the map there, wandering across, thinking he's in a normal TVT when he's absolutely not. I like the mix-up by Time, but I'm also like, Bunny, you need to start playing your opponent here, because just playing some generic TVT, that's all well and good. But when you're playing against somebody as crazy and as loco as Time is, you really have to start playing a little bit differently. Because I had this as well. I remember when Time was playing on the European server quite a bit. He got me a good few games in a row with this kind of stuff. I was like, this shouldn't work, which makes it so frustrating. But I really hope Bunny starts kind of respecting these shenanigans a little bit more.
Yeah, he might now actually have the better ideas to what to look for, but I do also want to give kudos to Time for opening up with the aggressive build to then negate any chance of Bunny's Reapers coming across the map. Yeah. That was a cool little twist there to make sure that he didn't get scouted. So I already see a couple SCVs going out. Let's do the introductions. Bottom left of Oxide, we do have the Red Terran for Team NV. He is Bunny.
And spawning over in the top right, currently 2-1 up, it is Kaiser's time. Was it just one little red dot that moved out?
Seemed like it.
What are you thinking here? Are you thinking, I was thinking that Special was going to do a proxy Marauder when he did this, but then he went for a Reaper, and I was like, huh. That is definitely curious.
The way that Special ended up playing that out, I really liked it. Like, I saw the train of thought there, and I was quite impressed because it worked, of course. Like, when it doesn't work, you're like, oh, I don't know, Special. But yeah, most of the time when it's one barracks, it is a Marauder proxy. And that's something that just, like, you can't really do much of.
What?
Is he going to scout that immediately?
I think he absolutely might, and...
Ooh.
From not scouting, but oh my god. Okay. Why even go over there if you're not going to check everything? That is brutal.
Oh my gosh. I was going to say, Time is kind of doing like, because he did this the first game when he was one racks expanding, and he's one racks expanding again. He only scouts for the proxies themselves, not across the map to confirm that a proxy is even happening. It is going to be the Marauder attack as well. So I was saying, like, with the factory expand, like, you kind of have to just kind of wait it out almost if you can scout it. And then, you're a bit contained. But when it's the one racks, like, that command center just gets canceled, right?
I mean, it's definitely going to be a fast game, to say the least. I mean, like, you can survive this if you pop down, like, a blind bunker immediately kind of thing. And, you get out 2 or 3 Marines. As long as it's not just one Marine into reactor, because then he's kind of screwed. But you have to be so good with your SFE pulls and stuff. And yeah, it's going to be a wild game to get things going here, but this came into the meta a little bit of time ago. I remember I think it was Clem against like Maru or something on Death Aura. It was around that period of time that I first saw it, and it was absolutely beautiful to see because all the transitions are absolutely great behind it. Like, even though it is obviously a commitment, it's not an all-in by any means.
Right, yes. I mean, a lot of the openers can be
that
like that.
bunker's so fast.
The bunker came down at a really good time, and Bunny waited for 2 Marauders, which really changes things up, too.
The Marine.
He's going to get the Marine with the help of the SCV, funnily enough. He's going to try and just go around the bunker to at least stall the commander, but even that doesn't work out as Time even saves the SCV. Now the supply depot is under fire, but we know that it can be repaired. It's going to cost some SCV lives, of course, but I mean, he can actually, well, with the Marines popping, maybe he'll do the SCV mineral walk, but without any other firepower, yeah, I don't think he can do it yet.
I like the way that Time's using the SCVs, though. Like, he's not losing too much, but Bunny was using this SCV for vision on the high ground, which was really nice by him. So far, all said and done, game isn't over by any means, but Time was definitely being a greedy little boy in this game, and it's finally It's biting him a little bit here, Zombie Grub.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit for sure, but it could have been so much worse. Actually, 3 Marauders, 4 Marauders, and a Hellion is something that perhaps Time was not anticipating. The Widowmine's going to take out the weak Marauder. Well done there by Bunny. Of course, get taken out. No armory here. And now the Cyclone is on the way for Time, and that's all well and good, but it only just started, and even that's a bit tricky against Marauder. All it takes is one of them to hit with the slow, and the Cyclone's also in trouble.
Yeah, I was a little surprised that he didn't move up the ramp a little bit faster to pick off these depots kind of thing, because that's actually something that can bite him in the butt a little bit, getting supply blocked and what have you, whereas that Orbital can always lift. It was almost a really good time buyer for him. But back at home, by the way, Bunny is expanding. He's getting his starport already, getting his own Cyclones and stuff. The additional Hellions, by the way. Oh, that Cyclone. Okay. Oh, that was risky.
Yeah, very, very risky. That was exactly what I was talking about, but a little bit too much to actually dive for the Cyclone. It really was at the farthest possible range, so... Oh, that was close, but we do continue on. Time gets supply blocked. He loses a handful of units. Some decent amount of mining time was also lost, and he does come out of this now 3 workers behind.
Yeah, definitely not the worst hold by Time, it's got to be said. I don't know how his starport situated. I guess that's a tech lab for the starport there. But yeah, Bunny, tech-wise, he is ahead now. Obviously, he doesn't have a barracks producing just yet. Like back at home, not producing Marines. But he is getting it done. And he's getting another barracks back at home. The Raven is on the way. Just very nicely handled by Bunny. But you got to say, that SCV missing that scout at the start, that was uncanny.
Yeah, that was very unfortunate for Time. And then a little bit unfortunate for his bunker to finish when it did as opposed to. But yeah, much more unfortunate to not have scouted. Oh, man, he was headed right towards it. He moved it. He moved it.
Yeah, he stopped his click. He stopped his click. That's why when you get that scouting going, just make sure that you use your time wisely, because you can get a little impatient. And that is funny that it's one of these players getting a little impatient with their scout not moving fast enough. It's like, come on now, just let it go, let it go. But that literally could have been such an advantage for Time. And Bunny gets a nice scout off here. Just see the 3rd CC going down when it's going down. Sees another Raven in production as well. And that's also just nice for Bunny. He knows he's ahead in a lot of ways here. Oh, sneaky Reaper.
Yeah, not a bad Reaper here. Might even delay or kill the SCV. There we go. Very nice scout for both parties, and a tiny little bit of revenge for Time, but ultimately still behind in the SCVs and behind in the technology. Already 2 Ravens for Bunny against just the second one popping out now, so of course more energy for the Red Terran, but it's still a very close TBT, really. Like, a lot of things can happen in regards to who finds who throws on auto turrets faster. Oxide, pretty infamous for having 2 ships passing in the night moment. Not this time around.
I love the fact that he suicided the Hellion there just to keep vision for the Cyclone, because now that Raven, it's like, oh, well, I'm getting a second one on the field, but you don't want to lose one of those or have to be forced to use its energy before you get to the point in time that you want to be using them. But Time, he just moved back home, repairs up that Raven again. They're both kind of, feeling each other out, wanting to gain map control. It's much easier to thwart your opponent when you're not trapped on your side of the map.
Yeah, absolutely. Gives a little wiggle room to actually still get the 3rd CC down too, which Bunny obviously is going to be getting down. Kind of no problem. Ooh, good grab on the Cyclone. Scan was used for that, but also I think to see what exactly the tank situation is. And it's still guarding the 3rd CC, or would be 3rd CC. Bunny's trying to be as active as possible. He never wants to let Time know exactly where his army is.
I gotta say, Time's tank positioning here is really cool, having them kind of behind the pillars and chokes, but whoa, Time gets out of the turrets way faster than Bunny does, but Bunny seemed decently prepared at least. Oh, this is definitely chaotic on both sides. Those Marauders still being super handy, by the way, dealing good chunks of damage, and Bunny takes a real good fight.
Yeah, they managed to trade out other Ravens, which I thought Bunny might actually be able to save, but still, trading out the Ravens, trading out the tanks, the Marauders on the front lines did help soak a little bit, because I think they were also microed a little bit forward. The thing is that Bunny really did kind of get caught unaware. He didn't think that Time was going to push into him. So I actually only wonder what could have happened had he been aware. His auto turrets are faster, his Marauders were kind of microed more maybe, his concave was better, but all said and done. Again, Time down 5 workers now, and significantly down to the Vikings, I guess, but a bit scary to throw down that CC at this time. The stim on the Marines even, they try and maybe burst it down as there's nothing but tanks and Vikings. It's actually really awkward for Time, who finally takes the lead in the air, is going to save that 3rd CC. I mean, it had no right dying, but for a second there I was a little concerned.
Yeah, like it didn't die, admittedly, but we look at that SCV count and we look at the supply as well. It's ever growing for Bunny. He's just in a better situation. It does feel like Time loves those fast upgrades, by the way, every game. He always kind of throws extra resources into getting such fast engineering bays, which kind of allows you to get bullied around if your opponent realizes you're doing that. And Bunny, just every other way in this game, he's just ahead. And you know when you see that tech lab right there as well, you're like, did I scout here? It's like, no, you did not.
What if that is going through his head? Anyways, Bunny is going to be able to outmaneuver Time yet again as the Vikings continue to be rallied across the map. I mean, Time still has the advantage, but it feels like one of those things where Bunny's kind of hoping that he stops thinking Vikings at any given time, and then he can dominate the skies again. As is, scan has to be used, but Reactor getting chopped off that starport's definitely a good use, as nothing went poorly for Bunny there.
Time can definitely stay in this game. Like, that's one thing you can do in TVT compared to a lot of the other mirrors. Positionally, it means so much. Like, tanks being defensive as opposed to moving in to then siege up. They are just one of the best defensive units in the game. And Time does have the ability to solidify here, but Bunny's not skipping a beat on his side of the map either. Like, the upgrade's not that far behind. He's still working on the Vikings. He's getting a 4th base, not on location, which is... I think he could afford to do it on location, but yeah, he's just playing safe here. Remember, his life is on the line right now.
Yeah, I mean, you really think things through, and you'll kind of, like, put two together, like, there's probably not an amount of extra time. He's been building Vikings against me. I killed his Reactor, but, I mean, a gamble on that, it's a bit tricky. I was just surprised, because that is a 4 CC before Armory. So that's pretty fast. But now a quadruple drop into the main. The scan reveals some defensive forces, but it looks like Bunny thinks that's not going to be enough. A perfect arc, as well as he drops out on top of the Armory of Time, could delay the upgrades. That's not what he's targeting, though. He's actually just going for kind of all-around damage as he kind of skirts the tank of Time there.
I think this is great by Bunny, how he's handling this. He's not ran in too crazily. It's going to be Bunny that actually has to run into the tank fire here to clean it up, and he probably will clean it up. But this is so much damage being done by Bunny, and all those Marines are chunking up there at the top as well. Nice cleanup by Time, all things considered, but definitely slowed down his economy a little bit.
I actually kind of wondered if Bunny was Oh, well, that was red. Combat Shields is done, so no need for the tech ones. So anyways, like, I did think that I wondered if Bunny was mismicroing his medevacs, or actually thought that maybe like a little bit extra healing would have helped, but he didn't save all his medevacs, only 2, regardless, still up 20 supply. 4th CC obviously going down location already is a terrible sign for Time, and he actually did lose the Armory. Never got to start 2-2 under all that pressure, so Bunny now has a fairly considerable upgrade lead.
Yeah, that's definitely worth mentioning, right? Like, that was Time's one advantage in this game, was maybe slightly faster upgrades. And now, after the drop happens, you're like, okay, I'll get some turrets. I'll stop being so crazy. But it feels a little bit like getting the wound already, and then you're like, oh no, now I'll put on the knee pad, over it, and it's definitely a tough situation, because this is the kind of game that Bunny wants to be in. I feel, where he's the one being aggressive, not the other way around.
Turrets are definitely still necessary. Definitely. Oh well, they're just going to be.
I thought he could have gone for it.
Yeah, that might have been a little tempting, seeing all the tanks combined like that. You could have dropped on it, but then maybe thinking the drop wouldn't have come fast enough if the Marines were hot in their tail, right?
I also wonder if it's about the fact that there's no 4th here already. Like, he then realized, like, you know what? I don't need to be this crazy. I can actually just play it a little bit slower here, and I see that you're trying to take the 4th here. That's always nice. Time does have the air control here, though. That is a lot of Vikings.
Yeah, I know that Bunny had some of them left alive. Yeah, it is 7-7, but of course, Time is defender's advantage right now. He's got that at least going for him, but he can't quite afford the same things that Bunny is, which is all the upgrades, all the production, and the additional 2 starports. Time technically could, but I'm sure he's thinking about different things. In fact, he should add on the starports, just kind of knowing in TVT, being outpaced is kind of the next big issue. When you can survive with tanks, that's all well and good, using safe play, taking on your chokes, whatever. But the next problematic step is losing air control and losing out to Liberators.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised that Bunny didn't put more emphasis on just kind of containing this 4th base and not letting his opponent expand, but maybe just worried about the counter-attack potential, wanting to check where all the army is with his... By the way, he caught up in Vikings pretty damn hard. I don't know where these guys were, but yeah, he's actually now got the Viking lead here. Time's still ahead in tanks, though.
I think Bunny has absolutely always been very scared or just, mindful of a potential run-by drop counterattack, so his Vikings were building up slowly at home. This still seems like a bad idea, but Bunny's going to go for it right into the Vikings and the missile turrets. He might have been patient just a second ago, but now really wants to end the game and thinks that he can. Another stim on top of this tank to take it down, but with all the medevacs dead, it means these Marines will pretend. I mean, they got 2-2 against 1-1, so it's actually kind of a funny battle. Medevacs against no medevacs, but upgrades against upgrades makes that a little bit more even than it felt like it should have been. Regardless, that was, again, one of those moves where it just kind of proves how aggressive both players are. Who else would have done that drop? Maybe Time would have.
Yeah, the only other player that would have done that drop is his opponent, which I love this. This is like the two little skinny boxers, the lightweights, where they're just punching each other in the face with all their tools here. The complicated tools, might I say. But the tanks, that is a huge amount for Time. And a little bit of a spike here goes down, but it's not going to throw these guys off. The Viking, the skies do belong to Bunny here, which is a nice place to belong. And he's going for it. He's going to clean up these 3 tanks. But okay, nice shift fire by Bunny to try and get some of those tanks down before they do drop, not just continuing to fire at that PF.
One of the most annoying things in TVT is that if you don't actually tell those tanks to stop firing at the planetary, they'll continue. So...
yeah, it's annoying having to micro, we
it's
have to
so
do
hard.
enough of it, like splitting all the time. Or
I gotta press T, oh man. Anyways, the Viking control here from Bunny is obviously leading into the Liberator control. Time should also know that's on the way, but he can't really do very much about it. He is very low on minerals currently, but as good as his tank count is, 13 to 7, it gets nullified by Liberators. It's just a slow push, and at that point, a slow death at that point. And this is only a single tank really defending. It's a lot of Marines. Not going to be good enough. Time is trying to respond as fast as possible, but looks like he might be able to save his 5th. Okay, yeah, good response. Fast enough.
Good response, but I think that's just the beginning of something going awry for Time. And he scans, he sees the Liberators, he's like, okay, I'm going to move before they get going here. And, I mean, that was definitely preemptive by him. And, okay, he's going for the rocks over here. I mean, I like the fact that he's doing something about it and being like, all right, I do have a big, chunky army here to try and get something done. And Bunny's respecting it as well. I think they're both navigating the map pretty well here. And Time definitely getting a few tanks there, misrallied by Bunny, but I mean, Time, it's against him right now, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's trying to play exactly how you should when you don't have the air control, which is trying to outmaneuver the guy who has more siege units. But unfortunately, Bunny had his own response well-timed, and then he did finish his 3-3 upgrades as they almost fought, which would have still been like, yeah, Time might not have supply, quote-unquote, wasted in the air. It's not even wasted, he's not even maxed out. Your Marines still actually aren't as good as Bunny's, even if eventually you could out-Marine him, and he already has, 54 to 35. 3-3 against 2-2, that's a big difference.
It's also got to be mentioned, Bunny, he's not all in with this by any means, he's just consumed his side of the map. The Liberators might get picked off here, but still, that is quite a bit of damage being done to Time that he can't really afford to have happen to him.
I thought the Vikings were going to continue going. I was like, don't lose all of them.
Yeah, proper kamikaze boys over there, those Vikings. But look at that red splodge on the left side of the map. Oh, that tank wanted a hug over there, but the left side of the map, the distraction tank at it again. And here, this is so many Marines in a good position with good amounts of tank, well, backfire, I guess. And Time, he's like, you know what? I'm going to go through those rocks. And yet again, and he does have a big army, but trying to get it into a good position, he's being suffocated here.
Yeah, losing. I mean, just taking hits while he tries to get into position. I mean, it is going to be enough time for his own 3-3 to finish, so these Marine battles are going to be a little bit closer, but it's not necessarily about the Marines, it's about tanks, and Bunny runs into them, or Time runs into them, and Bunny wins game number 4, which ties up the series 2-2. I don't even want to say that Bunny looks stronger in these normal games. He has won, a normal game at this point. I would call that 1-1. But I actually have no idea how Game 5 is going to go. I don't feel very convinced for either player after 4 games.
No. And, the games that they've won, they've been for, very different reasons as well.
Yeah.
Time, so obviously on Light Shade, he definitely caught Bunny off guard, but that was also Bunny kind of... I do want to say that move out was a little bit weird, a little bit wild. The 2K Atmosphere game, I think Bunny played a solid game there. Mm-hmm. And in fact, what was the first win for Time?
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's a good point. What was it? Romanticide Greed. There we go. I got it.
Yeah.
Time was a bit greedy, that's right.
You know the 5th map?
Beckett?
Beckett Industries. Nice. I mean, like, okay, so this will be a damn spicy one to finish things off. Like, we could have been looking at a time victor as well, that game. Like, that was the one map that he really scattered around to check for a proxy. And
I know. That would have been a big difference, man.
It would have been an absolutely different game. Like, he even had the bunker, but didn't have the Marine in position there at the start. Like, it was up the ramp, kind of maybe thinking about a Reaper popping into his main and stuff. It's just, what a devastating blow for time there. And then finding that tech lab later on. This might be one of the most wild things, and yes, one of the most bunny things I've ever seen. Him dropping into a good 3-4 turrets over here. But he actually traded well because of that advantage with the Marine. So yeah. I didn't actually hate it in the end.
Yeah, I kind of got the jump on the Vikings too, which would lead to him having a very convincing Viking lead, which time, kind of tried to play to, but then just really couldn't. So, of course, that's going to be an easier end for Bunny, who takes the compositional lead with those Liberators. But it can sometimes go sideways, even with the Liberators being the better unit there. Time was trying to make it go sideways. He was trying to go through the middle where Bunny maybe wasn't paying attention, wasn't sieged up. And we've seen base trades happen from those two compositions all the time, really. Yeah. Like, Time did try to play out that position as well as anyone could. But yeah, it was already just a wonky game where he was thrown off his game. He's thrown onto his back foot because the Marauders didn't go scouted, which is just too unfortunate. But now we got our last game of this TVT on Beckett Industries in the bottom left as the red Terran for Team NV. He is Bunny.
And he's already put on a hell of a show this tournament so far. Spawning top right, playing for Team Kaiser Gaming. It is time.
Time went into the hyperbolic time chamber to practice, I guess, specifically his TVZ. And even though he ended up losing against Dark, I think it really showed. Apparently, also in there to practice his TVT, which, it's not two players who are just like dancing around, fencing in like the most artful form possible, but it nonetheless has come to an even score where no one can really determine the victor.
Yeah, I love this barracks placement, by the way, and the fact that he's gone for double gas as well, because he knows that his opponent's been scouting him every game. And when you know this feeling because you play Terran as well, when you're going up that ramp for your SCV and you don't see a barracks there, you're like, oh, you can panic instantly. You throw up like a couple of bunkers and what have you. Now, if the SCV goes all the way in, do you necessarily scout over there? It could be found out late. It could be enough time for you to have already started reacting to the proxy 2 racks, which... I do like these little twists and turns that both players are doing, but I don't think Bunny's actually scouting this game,
He's not, I
I love it. Okay, so that is a little mind game that won't actually pay off for time here. And you might be like, oh, it's not the biggest deal in the world. No, you're right, it's not, but it's when a plan kind of falls through, but not through your own actions, almost.
It's an all shucks moment. Like, oh man, yes, we didn't come. All right, fine, that's cool. I mean, I think because it is Beckett Industries, it's going to be 99% of the time a factory expand, maybe a 1-rax expand with a high ground command center, but even that's really pushing it. So it really would have been hoping for, an overreaction as defensively goes. I don't think he was hoping for like a canceled command center or anything like that. But it's just now it's irrelevant. Now we get to see two people going for factory expand on the shortest map in the map pool. And one of them is about to get the Reaper in, but I don't think you dive with this. You got to figure you're both doing a similar build. Multiple Reapers, maybe even multiple Hellions.
Yeah, and you see that SCV timing as well, so you know exactly what it is. I mean, Bunny is going for the Rax Gas as opposed to the Gas Rax Gas. That was a bit of a tongue twister for me, but that does mean that the CC of time is a little bit slower, but he's been going for that whole series, really, which is, it's definitely unusual. Oh. So he went for a super-duper-duper fast tech lab using the barracks to make it for the factory. Definitely a little bit of a mix-up by him.
Okay, all right. Definitely going to be a faster Cyclone as we see Bunny's add-ons still finishing, although that means these reactors already done on his barracks, so a few more Marines for Bunny. And that can add up. 8 Marines as opposed to 4 covering like a tank push, like can be something to talk about, but we're going to be glued to this because it is apparently going to be one of the more typical TVTs. Factory expand into 1-1-1. No crazy second barracks timing. At least not yet. He did add it on after he started a Raven in that 3rd game, I believe it was, the Lightshade game. Banshee.
very, very funny stuff by Time. Like, this reactor on his barracks is going to be so damn late. I'm a little bit surprised by his build, honestly. Yeah. I mean, a Banshee can get in the main base and deal a little bit of damage and what have you, killing a few SCVs here and there, but definitely a little less than orthodox, it's got to be said. Like, he really tends to stay away from his Ravens, which is kind of a funny choice in TVT.
It's pretty crazy for professionals, guys. If you out there are like, I don't like Ravens either, it's probably because, you know, honestly, us plebs misuse them, but if you use them correctly, they're really, really, really good. And on top of that, I mean, this is even a cloakless Banshee, you know? This would be something I'm not even wondering about in TVZ. Like, oh, safety. But it's not safe, actually. I would say it's really not safe in TVT to afford a Banshee, cloak or not.
And super... I mean, like, the cloakless Banshee in TVT, there are times that it's good. Like, I think on Oxide it can be super good, or a 2K atmosphere kind of thing, where you can really get into the mineral line very quickly. But yeah, you definitely don't want to be running into a Cyclone, but we do see that the Cyclone is on the map. He's being a little bit aggressive, trying to get some scouting information. And this is the time that if you do run in with that Banshee, well, you can actually get something done, and that's exactly what's going to happen. Yeah,
the Cyclone not in position. The Raven is, so only 2 SCVs go down, and it doesn't take much for this Banshee to be, you know, necessarily worth the cost. And I think specifically the time investment, where it gets maybe a little bit dicey, because they're going to be, you know, usually producing 2 Ravens into Vikings consistently. Actually, in this case, Bunny only went for 1 Raven into Vikings. So, I mean, that means that Time is actually still going to have a Raven lead. More energy, of course, since he has 2 Ravens. And his Banshee is still being a nuisance. Maybe not anymore. Yeah.
Nah, that Banshee was definitely not worth it this game, unless he can get this Cyclone, which he cannot. Build order-wise, let's have a look-see. We've got 1 Raven apiece thus far. Wow, Bunny actually skipped the second Raven here.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I was like, I mean, he's going to be having a lot more Viking pressure, right?
Oh, yeah.
He's going to be able to bully times 2 Ravens, because it will only be the Ravens. Well, assuming the Cyclones don't get to help, which is exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to take this map control, target the actual useful units, and now it's about this micro battle. If these Cyclones of Time get destroyed, then yeah, there really is not much defending these Ravens. The Marines don't have enough range to do so reliably, and Bunny is looking to bully Time.
It's got to be said. Time, like, he skipped a lot of things there, with the reactor and stuff being super late, and then getting the 3rd super fast because of the lack of Marines. But his army looks pitiful right now. Like, this Viking count that Bunny has, like, if they land, and those Ravens, they have to be so scared in the skies as well.
Exactly. I mean, so far, so good. Time is not letting his Ravens even take unnecessary damage quite yet. So as he finally starts his own Vikings too, maybe he could, with a bit of defender's advantage, actually hold on to the skies, is the way I'll put that. It's still questionable. Bunny's even recognized his, you know, this is worked out. He's going to have more Vikings. He's going to try and use a Liberator on the front lines here. And with only 2 Vikings from Time, that's not going to kill the Liberator that quickly. You might have to use an interference matrix on it, depending on how things work out.
I actually love the way that Bunny's positioning here. He's making this so difficult for Time, and yeah, this position here, I actually like where Time's put all his production facilities, because this could have been a real clencher for, like, getting you know, a real easy victory. So that's worked out well for him.
Exactly.
But cleaning it up's going to be difficult, though, Zombie Grub.
Oh, guys, there's a siege. Well, actually, this was a bit of a bait. The Liberator, though, does get sieged up, not targeted down. Auto turret's trying to take it down now. Got a few shots off. But the Vikings of Bunny just knew better in numbers. As more reinforced, he's going to take control of the skies for sure. At this point, Time down to just the 2 Vikings. Ooh. No more Ravens. Nothing to protect these tanks. Bunny turning this push into a potential game-winning decision on Beckett. Time just needs to hold on and try and get something out on the map, but how could he do that when he's contained?
Yeah, and I mean, what are Marines going to do? Like, these are going to be Marines, I think, without combat shield, meaning if they stim these tanks right now, they'll one-shot them. So it's all well and good getting these really fast upgrades that he's been going for throughout this series, but he needs to break out of this, and how's he going to do it?
I really love the Vikings here. I mean, Ravens are still really good. That's kind of what we started talking off about, but they can be very good. The auto turrets can be, like, so much better in a lot of situations. They weren't here. Sometimes that's how it goes. The command center was injured earlier. It has to be mass repaired, and it will be. No, it actually dies. Time goes from maybe a manageable position to having to tap out of game 5.